yes, the food is important because that's what they're paying for. People go out nowadays just to forget about everything.
Yeah.
Which is given what's happening around the world, is sometimes can be peaceful.
I think so, and I think that people love a story as well. And I think when there's a person who really cares about what they're doing behind the food, then people want to hear their story. So that's right.
And I don't think we are far away from the days where the main person in a front of the house, in a dining room serving people. I know they use this a lot in Europe, where the chefs normally serve the customers. I think we are heading towards that direction very quickly, where chefs will be serving the food more often on the table than the wait staff. Because that's what I do in this restaurant. I try to touch the tables at least once during the night time. Could be if I'm busy in the kitchen, I'll just go once after I've finished. Or Wednesday nights or Thursday nights, I might be completely on the floor.
You're right, okay.
Yeah, and engage with the people who come to the restaurant. Because some people work 2 to 3 weeks to save money to come and dine at the restaurants. Right? And they want to be acknowledged. They want to be considered. Yes, no, everybody wants to speak because they also want to spend that time with each other. But most of the diners who come to this restaurant, when as a cook you speak to them, they appreciate that.
Yeah.
And that's the perceived value you never get to see in a dining experience nowadays.
Yeah.
And we try not to make the dining room too serious, because if you can't go to a restaurant and just feel free within the limits, like we always say, eat the mini tartlets this way, eat the anchovies this way with your hands, because you can't enjoy pizza with a knife and a fork. If I go to the table and I see a ribeye, which is a steak, on the menu, and there's a meat left on the bone, I'll always say, nobody's going to hurt you if you use your hands. Because how many places you've been to that you always look around, can I pick up that bone? And,
That's right.
And, because that's something you paid for.
Yeah.
So you should not be thinking that way in the first place.
Yeah.
But sometimes you're made to feel intimidated in a dining room. So we try to make it a little bit more fun, have a little bit of joke, but still respect the boundaries of the diners.
Yeah.
So.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of Conversation with a Chef. I'm Jo Ritty, and I love sharing with you the conversations I get to have with talented and passionate chefs. It's the backstory, if you will, to the food they're putting up. I begin today by acknowledging the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung people of the Kulin Nation, traditional custodians of the unceded land where this conversation takes place, and I pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. I went in for lunch to Little Black Pig and Sons before talking with David Lakhi, a head chef and co-owner. After lunch, we sat down in the inky and acoustically excellent dining room out the back, its walls hung with my favourite Klimt paintings. David has been cooking in Heidelberg for 9 years now, quietly building a restaurant founded on seasonality, restraint and a deep respect for cooking from the land. His work draws on Italian cucina povera, shaped by how he grew up eating, what he learned in the Italian kitchen that trained him, and the way he cooks now. It's deliberate, thoughtful and grounded in care for produce, craft and the people who come through the door. This was such an enjoyable conversation, and it's easy to see why Little Black Pig and Sons hold such a fierce place in the hearts of the diners that have eaten there.
So nice here, David, and I've been wanting to come here for a long time because I've had quite a few people at school, so colleagues, who've said, have you eaten at Little Black Pig and Sons? And I'm always like, oh no, I haven't. And I felt embarrassed about that because I hear such great things, and I've been following your Instagram for a while, so it's nice to finally be here.
I'm glad you're here, because being in Heidelberg is also a blessing and also can be curse at times, because people had this preconceived idea of what Heidelberg used to be, But in the last 9 years of owning this restaurant, I've seen this area change so much. Okay, and people always ask me, why you have this restaurant in Heidelberg? Why don't you open this in Kew or this or City? I said, no, I'm happy with where I am. I want to serve the community on this side of the river. If the opportunity arises one day to open a second place somewhere, yes, we will. But at the moment, I'm happy serving community on this side of town. And everybody drives cars nowadays, given the fuel prices. But we have diners travel from all around Victoria.
Yeah, wow, because you were saying there were people from Point Cook here last night. That's
Point
amazing,
Cook, we got regulars from Glen Iris, Malvern, Toorak, Middle Park, South Yarra, Prahran and all those areas. But very small amount of people from within 2 kilometre radius of this area.
That's a bit crazy though, isn't it?
Yeah, I live, which is strange.
Yeah.
And you'll hear people, like last night we had a table, they said, we only started noticing you 6 months ago that you're here.
Well, even I was surprised when I was walking along. It's and you're kind of like in by Aussie brokers or whatever. It just seems like you're on a strip of shops and it's just a small front. and having heard so much about you, I guess you could be easily overlooked. So
it's painful at times because we get overlooked a lot by a lot of people. You know?
Well, I'm always intrigued about what spaces were before, and I know this was a deli before it became a restaurant, but before that it was a lawnmower shop.
Yep. So that intro you read in a wine list?
Yeah.
So Millie actually got that printed yesterday.
Oh, okay.
So it's new. Because normally I go out and people want to ask me my journey, I tell them freely, the whole thing. So she said, just imagine if we go to a restaurant and there's a wine list there. Okay, you choose your wine, but the wait staff, you see the wait staff's busy. You got a couple of minutes on your hands. What would you do? I said, I don't know. I'll just sit. She goes, okay, why don't we print your bio and put it in a thing, your journey as a cook. I said, okay. So since then, a lot of people have been reading about it, which is great.
Yeah, let's talk about it. So I know that that it started quite early for you when your dad bought you a solar oven.
Yes.
I don't even know what that is.
So solar cooker is almost like a suitcase.
Okay, oh right.
Where you got the black compartment at the bottom.
Yeah.
Then the bit that opens up has a mirror. And then there's a little glass panel in between.
Right.
So the way you cook it is, I found this sitting in a storage back home, and I was always intrigued by these kind of things. And I said, nobody knew I was using it, so because I wasn't allowed to use as a child.
No,
you're
you're
not
12, right? Yeah,
so even younger.
Even younger.
Yeah, 11,
wow.
10 or 11, maybe 12. And I perfected how to bake a cake in that oven.
How does it work then? Is it just
so you got a mirror?
Yeah.
This. So this is your suitcase. The bit that opens up.
Yes.
That has a mirror.
Right.
Then there's another panel, which is a glass, and then underneath that, the bottom where you put your clothes and everything.
Yeah.
That's where you got your blackout compartment.
Oh, okay.
So what it does, obviously, black attracts the heat.
Sure.
So you got the mirror. You adjust the mirror with where the sun is.
Yeah.
In a way that the sunlight hits the mirror, hits the glass, heats up everything in between.
Wow. Yeah.
So that's what I used to do.
But what part of India was that?
Punjab, north.
Okay, yeah. I don't think that would work in Melbourne.
It would work great in Australia during summers.
The desert.
Yeah.
Yeah, right, okay. So were you always interested in food then?
I was always, you know, for us, the way I grew up, the food was a very important part of the day. My mum was a housewife, so she never worked. So her job was just to feed us. And it brought us together. And unknowingly, I fell in love with, as you do, you know, that part of the concept, which is bringing the family together over a meal. And my first successful thing I ever made was a caramel. And I was running up and down the street getting everybody to taste it at the age of...
Like a sweet? Or
like a caramel brittle.
Okay, right. Wow.
Yeah, so running up and down the street as a 10 or 11-year-old kid would do. And I was always helping my grandmother. We do this sweet noodle dish back home where I'm from, and the way they roll it, we got these terracotta water storage pots. So my grandmother would flip it upside down and she would roll the noodles on it.
Okay.
And we dry those noodles and then they cook it in a sugar syrup. All right. So I've always been interested in, I've never got my hands dirty, I'll be honest with you, but I always saw and always been keen to know what they're doing with the food. But then at the age of 17, when I really started to click with the food, and then I decided to move to Australia by myself.
Oh, by yourself? I somehow thought that maybe you came with your family, so that's really young.
I was, when I was on the plane to Australia, I turned 19 on the plane.
Okay.
That was 21 years ago.
So why Australia?
Why? I had a few friends here already, and also it was one of the easy places to go to as international immigrant. Back then, I don't know now. And that's pretty much it. That was the whole reason. There was no other reason. And when I first arrived in this country, from the get-go, it felt like home.
Wow.
You know? And people were kind enough. Some people weren't. That's part of life. And I was accepted into this restaurant where I worked like their own. And the mum taught me how to cook.
Wow. So was that your plan when you came to get into
My
hospitality?
plan was to be a cook.
Yeah, right. Okay.
That was my childhood dream.
Yeah, oh wow, okay.
So I had no other
yeah.
desire to be something else. My plan was, that's it.
Yeah.
That's what I want to be. I studied religiously when I was at the TAFE. And one of the teachers from the TAFE, he was so happy the way I was progressing, he gave me a knife kit.
Wow.
And he was a Scottish guy, Daniel. Yeah. So that was always the dream. It was very hard to get into this industry, to get a job, because there was a certain, now we're heading into a territory of where it was a lot of racism back then, in this industry especially. You know, I left one of the jobs. So as an immigrant, you can't get into a kitchen. You have to work your way from a kitchen hand, and you got to do your hard yards. So I started as a kitchen hand in this kitchen when I first arrived within a week in North Melbourne, and I ended up leaving that job because I was told, you Indians are only good to wash dishes. All right?
So embarrassing.
You use that as a moment to push yourself forward, not drag yourself down. So I said, no worries. I left. Then I was applying for jobs in a kitchen, in any capability. No. So I was finally able to find a job where they accepted me, trained me, showed me the ways. not just the cooking side of it, also the financial side of business.
Well, yeah, wow.
You know, because I was always keen to learn that side of business, because I come from a family business. All right, and I went to back home. When you progress from year 10 to year 11, you have to choose which way you want to go. You go to science, you go to commerce, you go arts. So I went to commerce. So I was very intrigued by the numbers. So once they start teaching me those things, they start to make sense.
So was this the Italian place? That's amazing. Where was that?
So that was, they had few restaurants. One of them was in Burwood, called Michelangelo. Then they had another one called Paesano. Then they had few in other southeastern suburbs. And it was hard, because I was working with some proper hard knocks back then, because the culture was different back then. It wasn't like what it is today. But that's what made me more resilient, you know.
And obviously you found something. You said that it felt like you were at home in Australia, but it feels like Italian food and cooking feels like home to you as well. What was it about Italian food that drew you in?
It's exactly what we do back home. We eat from the land. And that's what Italian food is about. You know, I grew up as a child, I was barely home. I was always playing outside. Doesn't matter, it's 35 degrees, 36 degrees. During holidays, I will not be home. I will only go just to eat quickly and then out on the streets again. I grew up stealing from other people's gardens. You know, that's one of my fondest memory of food growing up. I close my eyes, I can still see myself plucking a radish or a tomato from somebody's garden, or climbing a tree to get a fruit. You know, so food, Italian food, and where I come from, we both eat off the land, and we respect what land has to offer.
Yeah.
You know, and simplicity of the cuisine. Indian food is not what it's been portrayed in this country. Indian food is different to what you eat in this country. So is Italian. You know, so we try, when people come to this restaurant, they don't think this is Italian, because this doesn't have the cream, it doesn't have this or that, you know. So that's what drew me the most towards this cuisine, is the simplicity of it, and there's no room to hide. You can't serve tomato as something else. Tomato has to be served as a tomato during certain time of the year, and 3 ingredients: buffalo mozzarella, basil, and tomatoes, plus a good olive oil. So 4 ingredients. Your perfect meal for lunch.
Yeah.
Not many cuisine can offer that kind of simplicity, you know.
That's right. Yeah.
So,
and then from there, it sounds as though you branched out a little bit and worked in a few different places. When did you realise that you wanted your own place?
I realised that after 8 years of working in this industry from the start. So we were looking at a lot of places. I eat out a lot, and we try to educate our kids a lot about eating out, because not many people know how to behave in the restaurants when they go out. So as a parent and people from hospitality, it's our job to educate them. So when they, you know, when you work somewhere, you start to get frustrated about small things. And as a cook, you also get frustrated if you don't have the creative control. That's the biggest curse you can put on a cook, but taking the creative control away from them. So I was at the stage where I was struggling to find that balance. There's no point of getting upset, because if you can't afford to do your own thing, you should shut up and just do what the place has to offer. So 2014 was the time when I said, we started looking, and we looked at a lot of places, and my wife said, you'll never, the way you going about these places, or this isn't right, you'll never have your place. Then we stumbled upon this place in 2017. You know, like when you walk somewhere, you're like, okay, this is it. We walked in, it has the aesthetics to it. The place looks completely different to what it did in 2017.
Yeah.
And yeah, so 2014 was the first time I realised it's time to go solo.
Yeah.
When I say solo, it's me and Amelia who own this place together.
But you kept the name?
We kept the name, so it was a deli. Then it became a restaurant for a year before we took it over. And we had it for 9 years now.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess it does, the name makes Little Black Pig and Sons, it does make you think of butcher and deli and village and neighbourhood. So it's a good name to have, isn't it?
And also, people ask me the question why this is the name, because we never asked the question from the previous people. So I can't really answer.
No.
So the way I redesigned this whole dining room was, okay, you might not know what this place is. So when you walk in, it's another surprise. You don't know what you're walking into. And then we let the food and service do the talk.
Yeah.
And blow people that way.
Yeah. So I've read about the cucina povera philosophy, and then when I came here and I saw the menu, and it's a very impressive and quite very sophisticated menu. Can you tell me what then does cucina povera mean to you?
So it's what I mentioned to you before. It's eat off the land, and doing very minimum. Technique as a cook is very important, but you can't. I have seen a lot of people turning tomatoes into something they never will be. And as I said, tomatoes taste better from January, February onwards. And by March, they're gone. So for me, we stick with the ethos of that cucina povera. Yes, we try to tweak a little bit, but not in a way the tomato forgets itself. So the tomato, we only serve tomatoes in this restaurant for 2 months.
Yeah.
And during that 2 months, it will only make it on a menu maybe twice.
You're right.
Because the menu changes on a fortnightly basis. You know, because summer is one of my favorite months to cook. You know, you got the figs, you got the stone fruit, you got this, you got that. So, like, you had the anchovies.
So delicious.
All right, so that's my take on egg sandwich. Because I play cricket.
Okay.
All right. So there's a dish in Venice called uvo e acciughe, which is a hard-boiled egg with anchovies on top. I did that dish in 2018. I did it 3 times in 1 year, and we never sold it. So 2021, I was during lunch at cricket seasons. You know, you get sandwiches as a tea. So I'm eating this bloody thing, had no taste in it. I said, you know what? Anchovies will taste really good. So it's exactly the same dish, which is hard-boiled an egg.
Yeah.
But what we did is to just add another component to it. So it's playful, but it's exactly the same dish.
Yeah.
If I put a hard-boiled egg with anchovy in front of you versus that dish,
Yeah.
what's more appealing? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's right.
So you still got to give people something they eat with their eyes first, but the dish has to still have the simplicity and the ethos this restaurant holds, which is the cucina povera. So that's where the cucina povera stands.
Yeah. And also this changing the menu fortnightly is wild. That menu has got so much in it. You know, you've got each section, so each course. So the first, the antipasti.
So you got cicchette, which is the bar snacks.
Yes, that's right. Then the
and you got antipasti.
And the
premi, which is a pasta course. And secondi.
Yeah. each one of those has got 3 or 4 different choices in it, and within each of those, there's a lot of elements. How do you have all of this in your head? To me, it is so. I'm so impressed. I don't even know where do you start. How are you doing that every fortnight, or have you just got such an active imagination in your?
To be honest, I am very blessed to come from a culture I do, because you driving or you riding a bicycle, there's a food stall cooking. So I cook with the smell. That's how I visualize the food. There's very small amount of times I taste food when I'm cooking. It's all by the smell. I'm very fond of eating things raw, like a fruit. If you notice, this menu is very vegetable heavy. Yes, you might be eating a fish carpaccio, but it's served with the fruit. And also we get market reports from our suppliers. So that decides the menu in the first place. Then you just got to tweak the technique a little bit, how this thing will go with this. We did oysters a couple of weeks ago with passion fruit. Can't even remember what it was, because that's what I saw on the menu when it was too hot.
Yeah.
So there's not many things you can put on the menu because heat also kills a lot of produce.
Yeah.
So you got to be very careful.
I like the oysters with the persimmon. I'm not a passion fruit person, so persimmon was like, oh, I've never had an oyster with persimmon.
And there's a rhubarb gel on it too.
Yeah, it's delicious.
So I like to cook the way I like to eat. I like to eat the way I like to cook. That's my philosophy in life. I don't like to overcomplicate things. Even though we make all these pastas, all the pastas are handmade. No machines are used.
Yeah.
Now I see a lot of videos on Instagram when it's a handmade pasta and then they're cutting the pasta on extruder.
Oh, so you're literally with your hands, right?
It's all handmade.
Wow.
Even though we make all the pastas by hand, most of the regular customers who know me, most of the staff members over the last 9 years who worked here, if you ask them what pasta does he eat, they will always say pasta aglio olio, nothing else, which is garlic, olive oil, and parsley. That's the only pasta I eat.
Wow.
Because I like to keep my food simple.
Yeah, right.
Yes, you got a lot of pops happening in your mouth, but they're not overpowering or they're not taken away from the actual dish. If it's a beef tartare, the focus is the beef. Everything there is to complement the beef. We start with the good beef, then we do things to it, but beef is still the hero.
Yeah. And you must have a huge repertoire of different pasta in your head as well. So I was intrigued. I didn't have it, obviously. I had the cappelletti, which was delicious, and it was a nice, real teeth bite. Like it's a
al dente.
Yeah, but it's quite solid, so you feel like you're really getting something, and it really holds the filling. But I saw that you had a chocolate pasta. What did you have with that?
We had it with the duck ragu.
Yeah, that's right.
Last week we did a pasta with the coffee.
Yeah, really.
Coffee and a beef short rib.
Wow. And are they things you've seen before, or are they things you're coming up with yourself?
So when you talk to your guest, as a cook or as a wait staff, they are your teachers. That's how I see life. Okay. We had a diner here. We had the chocolate pasta with something 5-6 weeks ago, and I never done that pasta, so I said, we'll do chocolate pasta. It was for wine dinner, so where we had one of the winemaker from Verona in Italy. She was here, so I said, chocolate and duck sounds really good. And I never tasted that pasta, never tried, I never made it. I even put it together on a last minute, like the recipe of the dough. Everybody was in love with the pasta. So that's where this journey of chocolate pasta started.
Yeah, right.
It was an agnolotti filled with the duck and some fresh truffles shaved on top. And then we had a customer sitting, he's a regular from Hong Kong. He goes, "This is a very interesting combo. What's next?" I say, "I don't know." He goes, "Melbourne is a coffee town." I said, "Thank you very much." So we did a pasta with the... So I always listen to our customers.
Yeah.
Like, on your anchovies, we had that fennel puree. So that has a nice acid balance to it because it's cooked with a little bit of balsamic vinegar through it. That's an idea from one of our customers because they love traveling overseas, and he goes to me, "Oh, I did the sardines one day. I did it with this caramelized onion." So it's idea by a customer, but we put it into a technique where it complements the dish.
Yeah.
Just that dish will not taste exactly the same it did with some caramelized onion on the side.
No. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. And do you write all these ideas down? Have you got notebooks, or how do you keep track
We
of
do
all
not write
this?
recipes in this restaurant.
Wow.
It's all here.
You're right.
Because that's how I was trained.
Yeah. Okay.
So if you ever see a very old Italian lady cooking, they don't have recipes.
No.
They got lids of different jars they use as a measuring tool.
That's right.
They don't have proper cups. So if you ask me, "Oh, what did you put in the tiramisu I had today?" I cannot tell you. Because I do not measure. Yes, there's some things you have to measure. When we make the saveardis, yes.
Yeah.
When we make the mix of cream and mascarpone, yes. But alcohol, it's what I can get my hands on when I'm pouring it in a thing.
Amazing.
A little bit too much of April or Campari will ruin the flavor of that. Because if you notice that tiramisu was big on amaretto.
Yeah. Yeah. It was like a cloud. It was so good. I don't have a sweet tooth, but I'm really glad that I got to have the tiramisu, and it's delicious. And it wasn't
Too
much.
heavy.
It wasn't too heavy. Yeah.
I cannot
I'm not
stand,
good on the cream.
like, how many places you've been to, I know you said you don't have a sweet tooth, but your dining partner or your friend might have ordered a tiramisu, then it comes to the table, it got 2 kilos of chocolate powder on top. So what's the first thing happens? It's raining.
It's really running.
What's the first thing happens when you bite into the tiramisu? That chocolate powder hits straight in your throat. And from there on, you cannot enjoy a single thing because you can't stop coughing. All right. So, as I said, I eat with common sense, and I eat with common sense. So if something doesn't belong there, it should not be there in the first place. I think cocoa powder and chocolate powder, whatever you call it, on a tiramisu does not belong. Because the first thing it does, it hits your throat.
Yeah.
And you can't stop coughing afterwards.
Yeah.
But each their own. We grate a very good chocolate on top of our tiramisus. And we do not like to serve the tiramisu if it's not made 3 days prior to serving it. So it has to sit in the fridge for at least 3 days.
Oh, okay. For everything to come together.
Yeah, it's a marriage of flavors.
Yes.
The flavors got to get to know each other.
Yes.
And the coffee is roasted by a good mate of mine in Diamond Creek, which is on your way to Hurstbridge when you go on there tomorrow.
Yes.
And so seasonal coffee.
Yeah. I really noticed. I liked seeing where all the products are from, especially the protein, I guess, the fish and the meat and so on. That you obviously select really carefully your suppliers. Yeah.
Because our suppliers take pride in their produce. So for us to display their hard work is a compliment. People say, 2 things we don't serve in this restaurant is salmon and chicken. So those 2 things, maybe I'll eat my words one day, but we have not served those two things in this restaurant.
Yeah.
Because you can find them everywhere. And some things, this word I'm about to say is very controversial, sustainable. Some things are sustainable, some things are not. We are the custodians of food on this planet as cooks.
Yeah.
So we have a job to display product that's produced within the ethos of sustainability. You know, you'll hear someone who will say, oh, you know, sustainable is blah 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 blah, but they have sold that idea to people when they were young. Now they're a little bit on the older side. They think nothing is sustainable. You know, so it gets thrown around a lot. But when I got something on a menu, that means I had a good chat with the people who represent that company. So we had good chats with people who work for Aquina Murray Cod. We had a good chat with people who sell kingfish. You know, because we got a wine dinner coming up with one of them in 3 weeks' time. You know, so how do you do this? You know, when you talk to some people, they're very passionate about where their product comes from. It makes life so easy to sell it to the customers. You know, because when you go out to a restaurant, you don't want to eat what you can cook at home.
No, that's right. Well, I wouldn't be able to cook obviously anything on the menu that I just saw. That's amazing, astounding. And have you been to Italy now?
We were going to go in 2020. And then we were planning on going, I was planning on going this year. So the world is a very fragile place at the moment.
Yeah.
So you don't know what's happening, you know. I can't be going to Italy and be stuck there.
No.
You know, so we'll see what happens in the next couple of weeks or couple of months, and it will decide if I will be able to go to Italy this year.
And if you get to Italy, what are you looking for when you're there? What do you want to?
Just want to go to villages.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, eat the way peasants eat, because that's proper way to eat food.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's totally different to being in this country, but I grew up where we invited people over and my mum cooked or my grandmother cooked. You know, like you wouldn't go out to a restaurant every week. That wasn't the case. Going out to a restaurant was a luxury. But I don't know how things are back home now, because I've been here for 21 years, but that's how I want to eat. Like, I would go into places my family will never let me back home and see how these people are eating. Oh, like, but food has that capability of transporting you to back in time.
Yeah.
Like, talking to you, I'm thinking about, you know, this family, they would throw the potatoes at the end of the night in embers, and next day they were the best potatoes you'll ever eat in your life. And I saw one of my grandmother from my mum's side, she used to make mango chutney, where she would throw the green mangoes in embers overnight. Next day she'll peel them and she'll make a mango chutney out of it. Totally, like, amazing flavour.
Wow. Yeah.
You know? Yeah. Oh, we can talk about food all day.
I know, we were just camping up on the Murray River over Easter, and we had, it was so idyllic. And coming from New Zealand, I'm always like, Australian rivers, not that great. But where we were, so further around than Echuca, near Yarrawonga, it was just stunning. The river was pretty much clear, and we were just camping on the beachy part. It felt like being on a beach, and we just had a fire that we were cooking, and we cooked one of those, like a camp oven, and had potatoes and the embers and stuff. It's just such a great experience to enjoy food like that. That's, as you say, simple but cooked outside, eaten outside.
And you don't feel sick after eating that food.
No.
And you feel connected.
Yeah.
You know, because this is where the memories are made.
Yeah.
You know, this table has, I don't know how many people sat on it over the years. You know, if we have to put a price on the memories these were made on these tables, people cried, people hugged each other, people proposed, you know.
Yeah.
This is where we leave it all on the table.
Yeah. So true. I was just thinking about walking to my car through that rain.
Where did you park?
I'd park around the corner, the 2-hour car park. That's all right. Just, but maybe before I get drenched, just to finish off with all your experience and your well thought out philosophy, what would your advice be to young people starting out in hospitality?
Just be a sponge.
Yeah.
Just listen to people. That's the hardest thing to do nowadays, is listen, because there's so much information and misinformation out there. Don't cook for Instagram. Cook for people who matter, who pay the bills.
Yeah.
You know, because Instagram will fade away and will not pay your bills.
Yeah.
It might bring you an overnight success, but if you don't cook from here, from your heart, that fame will disappear like that.
Yeah.
You know. But that's the only advice I will say. Just work hard. Listen to people who have done the yards. They might have a thing or two under their sleeves, just to tell you.
Yeah.
And be on time. Be punctual. Respect the craft, because this is becoming a dying art.
Yeah.
You know, there are many jobs that will be overtaken by AI, but this is where it becomes crucial. This is where this industry becomes even more important than before, because people will seek that personal touch.
Yeah.
Because the robots can't give you that personal touch.
No.
You know?
How scary. That's right.
Somebody said it once, consistency is death. You know? Because it doesn't matter. You can keep on cooking consistent food every day. Sooner or later you will be tired of that consistent food. Because there's no emotion behind it.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Thank you.
No
Thank
problem.
you so much, and thank you for lunch. It's
No
great.
stress at all.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Conversation with a Chef with Chef David Lakhi at Little Black Pig and Sons in Heidelberg. You can check out all the goodness on Instagram at Little Black Pig and Sons. That's all one big long word. And if you'd like to hear more stories from other chefs, I'm also on Instagram at Conversation with a Chef. Also quite a long word. You can read this chat online at www.conversationwithachef.com, and of course you can follow me on Apple and Spotify podcasts. I would absolutely love it if you told a friend about my chats. I still think it's the best way to get these delicious stories out into the world. Once again, thank you so much for listening. Have a great day and bon appetit.